Welcome back to Between Two Bs, the official podcast of the B to SMB Institute and our 5,000 plus business to small business professionals. What's a partnership strategy architect? Well, Bernhard Friedrichs shares 20 years of insights on building capital efficient growth through smart B2B partnerships. Learn why some fail, how others thrive, and how to unlock real collaboration. A must listen for anyone working in partnerships. Enjoy this latest episode of the Between Two Bs podcast.
If you sell at scale to small business, you need to be here. The 7th Annual B2SMB Institute Leaders Forum, May 14th and 15th in Sonoma, gathers business to small business executives from dozens of major brands to talk shop. The winning, keeping, and growing of SMB customers. Our 2025 B2SMB Institute Leaders Forum extends the central theme of our 2024 events, selling successfully in a small business marketplace that's seen extraordinary growth and change in the last 2 years. Combining keynotes from B2SMB sales superstars with frequent small-sided breakouts, the 2025 Leaders Forum presents research-based insights, best practice playbooks, and a steady dialogue of shared wisdom on winning, keeping, and growing SMB customers. Our B2SMB Institute Leaders Forum sold out these last 2 years, so it's not too early to save your spot at our top-to-top networking and strategy exchange for senior B2SMB execs. Get your tickets today at b2smbi.com/leadersforum25. Are you ready to master the new sell? Join us for the 6th Annual Leaders Forum in Sonoma, hosted by the B2SMB Institute. Tickets now on sale for the B2SMB Institute 2025 Leaders Forum. Members attend free. Email info@b2smbi.com for more information.
Hey everybody, Dave Walker here, back with the Between Two Bs podcast. And, partnerships is something that I believe really started to emerge as a critical part of kind of the ecosystem of those who sell to small businesses right around COVID. And I think it came about because frankly, everybody was calling each other and trying to figure out what the hell to do as our small business customer base was just rocked with closures and with all the ramifications that came about from COVID in those early days. And so those conversations and those meetups, of which we were privy to a lot of them, really kind of fostered a sense of, hey, maybe there's bigger ways in which we can work together in this ecosystem of selling to small business. Partnerships I would say since 2020 has been top of mind for the Institute members, for myself. And I don't feel like we can get enough expertise on understanding the construct of successful partnerships, because I think that, we kind of get excited about the idea of, GoDaddy can work with LegalZoom and they can cross-pollinate each other's customers. But then the devil is in the details. And frankly, the devil is in the architecture of it, the actual kind of construct that supports the partnership. So in a continuing effort to find all across the world fantastic experts who have really good points of view, experiences, playbooks that we can all kind of take a look at to construct our partnerships and frankly to become, as he says, partnership architects. So welcome, Bernhard Friedrichs. Hey, Bernhard.
Yep. Hello. Hi. Hello, David. Thank you for having me. Hello to everybody who's listening. It's great being part of this podcast, and I'm looking forward to it. Maybe a little bit about myself. So my name is Bernhard Friedrichs. I'm based in Valencia, Spain, not Valencia, California. I think Dave and me, we had a brilliant discussion about this. And I'm actually German, living in Valencia since more than a year right now. From my background, was working in partnerships and international business development by now for about 20 years in different industries, from food industry and more than a decade now in the SaaS industry. We're building basically partnerships from scratch and in different partner categories, from channel partnerships, from product partnerships. Very often going international with partners, but also building a product with partner. And yeah, since COVID came, yes, that's one point where at some stage I was thinking I would like to do this more repetitively. I want to keep doing what I'm doing, building partnerships, and build a consulting firm around partnerships. So I'm helping by now Series A, Series B, late B businesses, mainly in the B2B area, to build partnerships or optimizing existing partnerships organizations. And basically working as a consultant, doing courses and training, also initially also starting with assessments to see what kind of partnership works. Um, Funny that you say, and I completely agree with what you said, that partnerships became an idea around 2020, or I mean, it was always there. It's not a new idea, but I would say it's an idea that time has come, especially in the sense I remember I booked Partner Experience, the website domain, because everybody was speaking about customer experience in 2020, but not many people
Yes.
about Partner Experience. I booked that domain, and 6 months later, actually it skyrocketed. Like everybody was speaking about partnerships. And I said like, wow, how can that be? It's like such a big shift. And yeah, I think there are some triggers, and it's like recent events that happen in partnerships to finding a more efficient way for businesses. And partnerships is definitely a way for businesses to have efficient growth. And yeah, let's jump into it. Thank you.
Yeah. I met you from the incredible stream of content that you produce around partnerships. I mean, you truly are a student of the partnership construct and have really done a lot of great work in kind of just dissecting, why certain partnerships fail and why certain partnerships work. And you write a lot about that. So why don't you just give us give us a primer on what makes for successful partnerships as applicable really to any B2B, but maybe particularly relevant for B to SMB, where the small business marketplace is so fragmented and so crazy making that sometimes you really need to scale. You need a partner to help you scale your offering or your success in the small business marketplace. So with that as a backdrop, tell us what you have observed, especially recently, in what makes for a partnership that doesn't work particularly well.
I think that's the main topic, and it's keeps me in the job because there's a lot of confusion about that. It's pretty much there's one very important point is partnerships are collaborative relationships, and they are not transactional relationships. Every single time when you treat a partnership like a transactional relationship, which is doing a transaction like value for money,
Mm-hmm.
it fails. And it fails on scale. And collaborative relationships are much more complex in a way, and you need to understand certain principles, why partners work with each other. And a partner never starts a partnership with you because of your objectives. A partner always wants to partner with you because this partner seeks to his own business to thrive. And so
Mm-hmm.
basically, and that is a two-way street. And there's never a simple, fast, scalable, transactional way to run a partnership. So you can see this. What often goes wrong when you see like, okay, we build now referral partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you have like thousands of referrals and kind of zero commitment, because these referral partners actually taking care about their own business. And
Mm-hmm.
occasionally they would bring you a referral, but it's not a sustainable act of, a way of how they are acting with this. And that's kind of, a very hype model of referral partnerships. I can see them failing very often. And that is one part is, yeah, think collaborative and
Mm-hmm.
understand what are the motives, why a partner should work or would work with you. Yeah.
Such an incredibly important point. I want to kind of talk about in an effort to avoid a transactional partnership, a more collaborative partnership. What I see happen very often is that those who have a seat at the table at the beginning of a collaboration, of a partnership, are all bought in on the idea of, yes, this should be a collaboration. This should be a win-win. We should both bring value. We should both commit to making sure that we are on a constant basis going back and forth, that it swings evenly to one side to the other. Then the CFO comes in the room, usually not in the room where the first meetings have happened, or the head of business development comes in, or the CEO, or somebody comes in basically in another meeting where the partner is not present, and they look at the deal and they essentially say, this is not transactional enough. I don't see a clear revenue stream from this that we can count on. So therefore, I'm not really willing to invest in it. Do you see that in any large and complex organization, do you see that as kind of part of the challenge of instilling collaboration, not just from the people who are sitting around the table at the beginning, but really the organization as a whole, that buy-in that needs to happen?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely need executive sponsorship, and you need to have a leadership buy-in, and not just this. You need to have leadership needs to understand what are partnerships and how they work. Like I've been incredibly lucky in those businesses, or happy in those businesses I've been working, that I often had leaderships on the C level and the founders that really understood and had like also the run rate to go through partnerships and understand this. And also like an understanding that not all partnerships are actually channel partners. You have product partners, you have marketing partners, you have service partners, and they all take over different functions, operational functions and strategic roles in your business model. And I think it is very important that the leadership at all times understands this, especially also in constellations where you have the model of a CRO. A CRO has an average tenure of 18 to 22 months, while that is probably the time that the partnerships needs, like between 18 months to really start running and show more results, and also like measurable in a way that is not just on revenue, because revenue is like an outcome. It's like a lagging indicator of success. It's not a target. It's not in KPI in many of those cases. You cannot force your partner's sales team to do certain stuff. They do this of their own interest. So then basically this is some certain understanding how partnerships work is very important to see that they need some time, and also specific principles need apply, and that also that you support your partnership team in a way that those partnerships actually can succeed. And very often I have clients where they are in 12 or 18 months in a partnership role and running was good, they sign partners, but kind of something is stuck there. Like you have an initial alignment, but it's not about the initial alignment. It's about like the sustained alignment over time between you and your partner. And this needs always a check with the leadership team.
We're going to unpack a lot of the principles that you have really learned from being such a keen student of partnerships. But I want you to step back for a minute and just talk about how you got where you are right now and what you're exactly doing. Because you've really evolved a pretty sophisticated, simple to understand, but a pretty sophisticated kind of system of partnerships architecture. Talk about how you got there.
So basically, it started not with the name partnerships. Like in the very beginning, I think it was called business development, not this business development, which is now probably an SDR or another function for a salesperson, but really business development, creating something where there's no business before and where there's no standard contract for that, and working in businesses in different industries. And the funny thing is, if you work in the food industry or in SaaS industry or in any other industries, the key principles of partnerships are pretty much always the same. There are different players in an ecosystem, but you learn over time that the main reflexes why a partnership is successful are very, very similar over time. Just that you have, saying in SaaS, like different actors, different players that are, that construct this ecosystem in this industry. So I went through time. There was a lot of trial and error, of course. There was no special wisdom drink like you had to learn. There was there was also very little. Well, not so much to learn. You had to do trial and error and work with partners and understand and observe. Because I mean, even 2020, when I started to look into in preparation of building the own consulting firm, to look also what are other resources and further ones. And by then, even then, were probably 5 books that were great in partnerships. And I think there are some more, but still the 5 great ones are still the 5 best ones, I would say. And so kind of you had to go through those processes, understand it, compared to sales, where you have thousands of books and thousands of very standardized methods and qualification methods and how to standardize your funnel and frameworks. That is very difficult in partnerships, because you have 2 different business models that are trying to find a way to succeed together, compared to I create value and you give me money for that, which is a transaction, which is much easier.
Right.
So you need to convince, you don't sell to a partner, you recruit a partner That is like recruiting an employee to convince this person commits to your business. And this is much more complexity. So it was very hard to find mentors to do this. It was very hard to read some. So a lot of things is learning, doing it over time. And there are sources, but I think it's also the motivation why I created a knowledge hub, which is free and accessible with a lot of guides and templates in partnerstandard.com, where you can just read about those information, because I think it's very important to spread the word that people understand what are partnerships and what are the different types of partnerships. And have a list of recommended books to look into, because it's not that, it's more like often common sense and learning and understanding and observing, rather than learning a fixed framework, which worked for one, but doesn't work for another company. Every company is a different growth stage. A growth has different objectives, and actually you have two that have to find together in this sense. So there's more complexity compared to sales, I would say.
What really caught my eye, at least in the construct that you're creating, is your use of the title partnerships architect. And I stole it at the beginning shamelessly, but partnerships architect, what you're trying to, in creating all of this tremendous bank of how you do it information, you're really trying to inspire people to become the partnerships architect of their organization. What do you mean by that exactly?
Yeah. So if you look into what is like how many partnerships actually fail, it's hard to get really the latest figures to measure that. But when you look into different sources and different areas, you will see that usually it's between 60 to 80% of all partnerships either fail or significantly underperform of what it was thought in the beginning. And when you look further on it, you will also see that actually they always fail for the very similar reasons. It's very predictable. That's very sad. And that is because people fall into the same traps all the time. And that is very often we look into playbooks. So there's a lot of playbooks out, and there's a lot of how to do things and how to standardize this and frameworks that we do. And I mean, it's a normal human behavior. Of course, it's because how was that? You have like your brain is like 2% of the mass of your body, but it consumes 20% of the energy. So over time, our evolution came to the point, like in evolution, like we try to save energy and by doing analogies, by basically look into what worked before. That helps us to create shortcuts, and that helps us for a lot of stuff in seeing patterns. But it also, when we see a very successful company applied this partner tiering model, this partner program construction, these frameworks, we try to copy this. But the problem is, if we try to copy this is a map of the past. And we try to, oh, sorry, there's a icon coming out. So it's a map of
some of you enthusiastically like that point.
So it's maps of the past. It's like playbooks. If you have a playbook practitioner who's someone to work on a playbook that worked well for another company. And that can be a good way to save energy, to not invent everything by yourself again, if your business model and your growth stage is pretty similar to those of the playbook that you are copying. But that is very rare in partnerships, because we always look for the most successful company, which is then a billion-dollar revenue company, and we are a startup in an early stage and try to implement this partner tiering model. And that fails because you need completely different resources for this. So what I'm working on and want to create also, that people look into not to, copy other playbooks, but create your own playbook that works, or understand, if you follow a playbook, why it works. I found an analogy from, I think, Tim Urban, who built this, speaking about the difference between a chef and a cook. Like a cook follows a recipe.
Right.
But a chef knows what each ingredient actually does to that recipe. And I think that's the same as a playbook practitioner. You are really good like in doing those things, but you don't know if you're doing the right things.
Right.
So doing the things right and doing the right things is a difference. And a playbook partnership architect basically knows how to construct that building and knows which ingredients needs to be in that soup, let's say, and what they do.
And analogy. I love that analogy. And it puts you on the doorstep really of what I want to talk about next, which is it's not the playbook, it's the principles that you really focus on. Look, I'm not going to regurgitate a bunch of playbooks out there and case studies and use cases of partnerships that are successful as much as I'm going to dissect them to really understand what were the principles at play that made this so successful and made this work so well. So I want to unpack. I don't know how much time this will take to unpack, but I do want to unpack for the benefit of our audience. And we'll produce this, by the way, as supporting visuals, for our viewers and listeners. But I want to walk through these 10 principles that really you believe are one by one the principles that you need to have in hand as you are both evaluating, designing, constructing, delivering, etc., successful partnerships. So if you're cool with that, I want to start at the top of the list, which is, you've mentioned it before in different ways, but it's this notion that the value that a partnership creates is really in its complementary capabilities of the two partners, is really understanding how you fit together. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So one step first is like principles is the idea of say what needs to be true so that it works. So it's like kind of going really into a principle. So why a partnership, what needs to be true to make a partnership work. And there's and I had like a lot of conversation with partner managers, with leaders and GTM leaders, and looking into what actually made a successful partnership. And one is, complementary value creation. I think there's a very easy formula that is like everywhere around. It's like 1 + 1 = 3 or more. Mm. And that actually comes back to, if you're doing a partnership and doing the entire effort to work on a partnership, and there needs to be one thing, you need to create additional value through that partnership. So your customer needs to receive more value through this partnership than each of the partners could deliver individually to a partner, because otherwise there is no trigger, no motivator to create a partnership. So if you have, in a very practical way, if you have a service provider for let's say doing integration, you have a CRM solution, which is the system of record, and you have a email provider, and they connect in these stages and connect in a way that it makes sense. So it basically helps the client to be more efficient, to have much faster all the content into this email sending, with, nowadays, even with all the background of a client and the email address and everything. So basically this connection needs to bring some additional value to it. If you if you cannot identify additional value, if you just do the partnership for the sake of, having nice logos on your website,
right?
Clients
it's more vanity than anything.
I mean, it's a marketing partnership still, kind of, because you put like, one partner says, hey, I trust this one, and the other one says, I do the same. So it's like a little bit of social proof, but you don't have this additional value that you create in this sense. And so customers would then say, okay, I can buy this individually and be flexible. But if I buy it from, so you need to and it also goes for channel partners, in a way. You go in another country far away, and this partner has the knowledge locally, and you are a technology company, and this partner locally knows exactly how to address with your technology the local clients. That brings added value to the play. So complementary capabilities are important. If you are very similar, that doesn't work out, because that also at some stage creates more competition. And basically, you have to have a complementary, and you need to identify those ones. We also tend to try to make things always similar, but here the difference is actually the strengths in the partnership.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that what I've observed, at least, the successful partnerships that I've seen inside of the B to SMB space are the ones that make sense to the customer. In this case, the small business. Yeah. So those that make sense, they immediately get it. Oh, I'm getting my privacy policy and terms and conditions from LegalZoom as I build my website on GoDaddy, and they make it super easy to go back and forth between the two. That really is a powerful partnership. That collaboration is very powerful to the customer. Yeah, actually, that's also, your customer is an amazing source for ideas with whom to partner. Ask the customer. You can. Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, novel you do ecosystem. It seems to be obvious, but very often it's not. So, just a reminder, that you bring it up, because I think that it is obvious. Yet, I think that, and I hate to say this about my peers, but very oftentimes the CMOs of the world get very enthralled with the vanity of, oh wow, we're doing a partnership with, with Microsoft or Google or whatever. And they rarely step back and say, wait a minute. What, other than the fact that we get to prominently expose our logos, to the world, side by side, what's in it? What's in it for us? What's in it for them? What's in it for the customer? So I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I mean, a very straightforward approach to this is ask your existing clients or ask during a pitch, or you ask your customer success team to ask your clients, what are the tools and services your clients use before, while, and after using your service? It's an amazing source for having ideas with whom to integrate, because on this journey, before, while, and after, you can find a lot of integration, a lot of services that you can connect and make your client's life easier. That's like basic question and very straightforward. And your client will know, okay, I'm actually using this tool in that moment. So it would be great to have an integration with them. People need to have a reminder for that, to ask that. And it's a very simple question you ask also constantly. It's not a one-time shot.
So speaking of a question you answer or you ask constantly, let's talk about a second principle, equal value exchange. So describe what you mean by equal value exchange and how actually that principle gets applied.
Yeah, that's actually also one of the, one that pops up very often. And I think it also describes the problem of referral partnerships, why they fail so often. So equal value exchange means when you partner with another company, you need to make sure that the value a partner puts into the partnership, they receive that in return. But it doesn't mean in just like in money paid. So one thing that goes wrong very often is one partner says, okay, I'm going to introduce you to all of my clients and I put you there. And then the other partner says, great, I give you 25 or 15 or whatever % of that deal. That also means like, I'm going to stick with 75% of this deal. You get 25% and you open your client book. You put your reputation out there and give me your clients and do this. And so basically this exchange for having access to a client for a commission is basically not equal value exchange. This is like giving like the commission is a nice to have, but if you cut out the commission of a referral deal and say you don't get anything and your partner does not have any reason to refer a client to you, then this is not working. So what works is if you have partnerships where a company has a very intrinsic interest and like to basically introduce you because it helps the partner to sell their own products much better, or it helps to create exit barriers or for the partner because you have the integration with them. So there must be much more. Like equal value exchange means like to look into what is actually the value you get. And if you just have commission pay, it's not equal and it will not work. Like opportunistically, I give you basically a referral, but on the long run, there's nothing in for me because that's not really equal. And so that is, you have to look into your partner value proposition to understand really what does my partner actually get out of this, and is that kind of equal? And that's very important.
So is there a degree of, in that back and forth of really trying to establish what is equal? Because I think that's perception is a big contributor to that is, yeah, I believe I'm getting equal value in this. Do you find that really that is where the early work in a collaboration, frankly, doesn't get done, and it ends up unwinding the partnership further down the road? Is that kind of one of the root causes of why partnerships fail, is because there really isn't an understanding of what the value exchange is?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is actually the root cause for a lot of issues in partnerships while they're working. It's like we tend to try to sign as many partners as possible, but that's a problem. Like you need to spend much. You have to slow down to speed up afterwards. You need to make sure that you qualify your partners and really understand the partner value proposition, create a partner hypothesis and understand what actually does my partner get out of this? Why would they do that? Why would they work with us? Why would they, basically announce the partnership? Why would they constantly develop features for us or bring us clients or resell the product or promote the service. So you need to do this very proper qualification in the beginning. And it's like an upfront investment to get a partner, but it's like really a permanent loss if you have an unqualified partner signed up. That is like, so basically it's a, how you call that, a dripping faucet. Like it's better to take more time to qualify partners and really make sure that you have a qualified partner and then sign that deal. By the way, nobody wins anything by just signing a partnership agreement. Like what really comes is afterwards the work. Then, then it gets actually materializing the partnership. So take more profit or more effort into the recruitment process. Don't make it a KPI to sign as many partnership deals as possible, because that can be like a source of costs afterwards.
Right.
So better less, like quality over quantity in that sense.
So we've done 2 of these principles, and I want to get to as many as possible.
Yeah.
But I want to jump around a little bit, and I certainly want to give you the opportunity to pick a principle that you want to talk about, or 2 or 3. But the next one I want to go to is because I've experienced it in several different partnerships over 40 plus years, is structural trust. What do you mean by structural trust?
In partnerships, that is often actually a case when you think of, okay, there are 2 people that understand, because it's relationship building. So you basically trust a person, because in the beginning you have a really good personal relationship and you understand basically that you trust the person. But the thing is, when I went through these principles, I figured out that trust actually is it's more reducible, because trust comes from the belief a person trusts you because the person know why you do something. Like a person can rely you're not going to eat the steak from the table because you are vegetarian, let's say. Kind of the truth, like the predictability in this. And structural trust means when this person leaves, there still needs to be trust in this partnership. That means like you need to understand why a company and like why you are in this partnership. It's not just like a normal, we come along well. The structural trust means there's trust because of a reason, because you can trust that this partner has a certain commitment by intrinsic motivation to work with you. And it's not just like what is sometimes the complaint about people saying about partnership people, that they understand each other well, they're going here, like it's like the trust needs to be very engraved in the relationship, and you need to understand where's the source of the trust. It's not just personal. When this partner manager leaves, it should be still working in this sense.
So, and it reminds me, when I think structural trust, I also think of just, can each partner do what they physically do, what they commit to doing? So I remember I've worked many years in retail, and I remember that one of my CEOs was very fond of making partnerships with vendors that were inside our retail locations for doing things like demonstrations or live sampling or distribution of information to every customer that came through a cash lane. And the long and the short of it was, across 1,800 stores, we couldn't do that. I mean, we physically couldn't execute. We did not have the structure in place to execute what we were promising. And it always led to tremendous disappointment and a lot of finger pointing and a lot of, well, why can't we do this? And all the rest. But it's that investigation into, frankly, the capabilities of each of the partners, so that when you articulate, this is what I want you to do in the partnership, you're confident that their systems, their processes, their people, everything is going to be able to do what it needs to do.
I mean, there's one method that that developed over years, and it's at some stage we called it the 4 C's of partner qualification, which is like looking into, does your partner has a customer base that you actually want to reach? So not starting from, so basically that helps a lot if the customer base and the relationship is there. It's the credibility. So do you believe that your partner actually can credibly sell your product or promote it to this customer base? So it's kind of, you wouldn't buy a piece of bread from a butcher, even though the store looks very similar. You have a cashier, you have a person telling you, you have the products laying out, looks pretty much the same, but when you enter, the smell doesn't tell you don't want to buy bread here. So, but the rest looks very good, the same. And this is like kind of those stuff you need to look into, is the credibility there. With this, and then capability. Yeah. Are you trying to reach the SMB market and your partner has an enterprise sales team? that won't work, because they will not find the incentives and not the motivation for the smaller contract value. So that these are, and also like they are not trained to do that and to have this commitment. So there are actually methods that you can look into step by step to figure out, is there actually structural trust that will build up. Yeah.
So we have a number of other principles to talk. I want to give
Sure.
you the opportunity. Pick a principle and talk about it.
One principle. Well, one thing is, I think I think we picked about it. We talked about it before. It's like alignment, sustainability. This is the point where you speak about. So you go there, you sign the agreement, you have alignment, but you need to be aware that a partnership is not, you're not working towards a transaction point. You don't build trust to transact and then you change money for value. Collaboration means like you both look into one direction, which is one like goal that looks in the same direction. You agree on walking in the same direction, but you need to stay aligned. Hey, do you still have the same goal? Is your market still developing in the way that you told me last year? Is your strategy still working in the same direction? So you need to basically make sure that you are aligned over time. It's like not the initial alignment is the foundation for success. It's like to stay aligned over time. And that means like you have to have those conversations on different level with partnerships. You have to have the leadership, the executive sponsors that speak to each other. You have to have the partnership managers that speak to each other. And you also need to see that the sales teams, if it's a channel partnership, or the dev teams, if it's a product partnership, are actually working on the same roadmap, because you are deciding to go in the same direction. And the goal doesn't need to be the same, but it just needs to show in the same direction. So it allows you to walk in the same direction for a while. And that I think is very important, that there are also deviations. And allow me to put the other one, it's dynamic tension is another principle. Is like, it is fine and it's good. You don't need to have always the same opinion, because having different opinions is actually the secret. Is like, if you have a different opinion and different approaches, then actually it really, and you speak about this one, that actually helps you to invent something new. Like,
Right.
like there's no reason to compromise and make everything perfect. Like you need to live with this tension, because this will help you to find your source of innovation. And you speak about those, and it's absolutely clear that some partner has different experience than the other one, and basically you come up with different solutions to a problem, and you out of this you build something new. And there's like a constant kind of a little bit of friction, which is good in a partner.
That dynamic tension, I think, really is the secret sauce to great collaborations. You know, it isn't everybody saying yes to, when one side says yes and the other says, you know, I agree. It is kind of there is healthy kind of disagreement. I want to talk about another thing that I think it's, by the way, just to pause, I give you high praise for your choice of words. I mean, I'm a copywriter from way back. That's how I started my career as a copywriter. And I do believe with my heart and soul that words matter. And you've chosen some wonderful words like sustainability. I mean, that's a perfect word to apply to, I've never thought of any business relationship in the terms of sustainability, but that's exactly what matters in so many partnerships, is how sustainable is it? Talk to me about knowledge osmosis, another great word choice. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. So one thing is, and that, I mean, this is for all of those principles, is like they are there if you like them or not. It's like gravity. And knowledge osmosis is the same, and you just have to accept this, is knowledge will flow between the partners if you want it or not. And many partnerships, like they go into a partnership and they will, even if it's successful or not, there will be knowledge transfer. There will be in different ways, because there's interaction between the different partners, between the people, between the information, the content, and also the customers, and you will get a knowledge osmosis. And you have to accept this, that is being there. What you have to do in this way is that you first be aware about it and start designing it in a way that it makes sense. You cannot stop it. There's no way to do that. And you need to be actually very sure that the knowledge actually that you share helps or enables your partner to be successful in this sense. So first thing is, there is osmosis. If you try to cut it down, you probably will cut down parts of the partnership. You need to be very clear in the beginning that you need to share certain information. That gets very critical in certain partnerships where you have like intellectual property. And it's even like there's an ISO standard for partnerships, like it's called ISO 44001. And one very about this is knowledge exchange. It's a very specific chapter in it, that you need to be very clear with the set of knowledge that I'm willing to share with my partner. Is this partner enabled to succeed? And if I try to cut something down of this, probably it's not working. And you need to be just aware that you cannot cut down those knowledge, and you need to be ready and to understand that it's low. And I heard, I think, another case another day is like sometimes partnerships, they go out and they say the most thing I got out of this is the information of this partnership.
Right.
We learned so much during
Right.
this partnership. And that is something that you need to accept that it's happening, and ideally you construct it in a way that it works, that you channel the flow of information.
So we have to kind of wrap up. But there's going to be a lot of listeners who are going to be like, wow, this was really informative and terrific. How would you prefer that they make contact with you, that they get more information from you, that they're able to tap into kind of the resources that you've got? Give us what would you like our audience to do to really learn more from you?
Happily, connect on LinkedIn. I think you can probably share the
link,
my
yeah,
LinkedIn
absolutely.
link, so to make that easier. Connect on LinkedIn, Bernhard Friedrichs, and just reach out. I'm happy to speak. Another thing is a source, like there is a knowledge hub under partnerstandard.com or subdomainpro.partnerstandard.com. There's a lot of information, a lot of guides, and a lot of information that you can look into, templates as well. Also, I have a newsletter, news.partnerstandard.com, where I'm very often regularly sharing information and longer articles actually that I researched. And besides of this, where we speak here about first principles, there's firstprincipleled.com, where I have a publication. Reaching out, just drop me a message, send me an email, bernhard@partnerstandard.com. And I think I gave like a lot of options, like feel free to reach out. I'm looking forward.
I already know of several of our members who would be eager to learn more. And just out of curiosity, do you do when you're first engaging in consulting for a business on their partnerships efforts, do you do some form of diagnostic where you really kind of go, let me take a look at your partnerships and let me apply these principles, and let me give you a grade on how well you're doing with best practices, your best principles?
Yeah, I do this before I would have done this always, of course, as part of a consulting project to do an assessment. I do also, without consulting, doing an assessment as well. It's called a partnership architecture screening, where I look into actually which stage a company is, which growth stage it is, what is the objectives of the company, and I do this assessment. You can see it among the services actually on my website, and then you look into this. It follows a very structured process, and I can basically after this can tell you which kind of partnership category and type you should work with to basically achieve your goals, and looks also into your partnership readiness, which is very important. Like want to and be able to sometimes is different. So basically also helps you to know in what you need to invest to be partner ready, what needs to change, or what are possibilities, what are you capable of which kind of partnerships, if you reached a certain growth stage already, to work with channel partners, for example. So there's a partnership architecture screening that I do, which is a standalone product actually that you can go through. And after this, you will know which kind of partner type you should go, and also what are the next best steps to succeed.
Terrific. Absolutely terrific. I hope you're a regular guest, man. I really do, because I think that, as I said, I know that partnerships are an important part of going to market for businesses, small business enterprises. And I think that there are plenty of successes out there, but there's also plenty of failures. And I think that learning from both, applying a screening like your principles to the partnership is invaluable. Thank you so much for doing this, and have a lovely day in Valencia. I know you will. It's a lot better than western burbs of Chicago. Let's put it that way. It's the sweet spot of Valencia time of year, right?
It starts now, right? Yeah, that's really nice. Thank you for having me, Dave. And thank you for everybody who was listening. I'm looking forward for you to reach out, and we speak soon.
Hey, thanks for joining us for this episode of Between Two Bs, the official podcast of the B to SMB Institute and our 5,000 plus business to small business professionals. Tune in every Wednesday for new episodes at the crossroads of the big B and the small B. Between Two Bs on your favorite streaming services.